Hello and welcome to this special series of episodes called 29 Days of Magic. During Black History Month, the month of February, I'll be interviewing a Black woman a day who's from business and entrepreneurship. You name it, I'm going to have a chat with her. The idea for this is to show off the amazingness of Black women throughout various industries. I hope you take a listen, like, share, review, and be inspired by these incredible stories. Take a listen. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, CEO of the cultural communications agency D-Flash. Each episode, I bring a different business leader who's doing some game-changing work. And this episode is no different. I'm so excited to have Brittney Oliver, who's the founder of Lemons to Lemonade and a contributing writer at some of the publications that you all know and love. I'm going to talk to Brittney about writing, founding your own business, navigating in COVID, and a bunch of other stuff. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Brittney.
Hey, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. Causing trouble as usual.
I hope it's good trouble.
Yeah, yes. Of course. Always good trouble.
That's literally something to live by.
I mean, my mom always makes a joke that, like, my childhood nickname at age 1 was Trouble. And I'm like, what could a 1-year-old get into? And she's like, Trouble. I'm like, oh. So it stuck with me forever. And it's accurate. So we're going to get into some good trouble now by starting off this lovely interview. So it always is the same first question, and I'm sure you're going to have a great answer. So, Brittney, what was your first job?
So first job ever or first job, like I guess after graduating school?
Whatever you want. Whatever one you feel like.
I'll do first job ever.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was 16 and I was working at a retail store. But what made this store special is that they sold all the type of clothes that I love. So I'm dating myself, but you know, those early 2000s, everyone loved the Rockaware, the baby fat.
Apple bottom jeans. Oh.
Yes, all of that. So I worked at this store called Demo, and it sold, you know, all of those different brands. And I loved it because I could be fly at school. I literally would
earn my entire class.
Earning my dollars and putting it back into the company. Literally, I'd get a check and then that same day I would buy an outfit. But it was fun. I really enjoyed working there, and it just fit my personality.
Awesome. And I bet you learned how to deal with all kinds of crazy people who wanted the hottest fashions as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, you know, especially like Friday, Saturday night, everyone's like, I grew up in a military town. So a lot of the soldiers will come get their outfit for the club.
Really?
Yeah. I'll never forget this one guy. He came with a woman, and he just rolled out like just dollars, just rolled them out, and he bought up whatever she wanted. It was like that T.I. Music video, you can have whatever you like. And he literally said that, and he was like, whatever she wants. I said, you're kidding me. He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, get this outfit, girl, get this. They had like, we would, you know, get bonuses for like how the dollar amount that we would sell. Sometimes they had competitions on like how much baby fat perfume we could sell. So I'm like, yeah, get two. There's like the Golden Goddess and this other one. Get this perfume. Like, that was the funnest day ever when he just said whatever she wanted. That was amazing.
That's bad. Wow. Like he's not balling at Chanel, but he's balling at this store. Got you. Okay.
Yeah. And I had a blast just picking out whatever she wanted.
Damn, but it's interesting because you have to like adapt to like a client like that and be like, okay, if that's what you want, girl, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna tell a story with your clothes. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so you go from working retail and, you know, fueling your clothing habit, to now. What's that journey been like?
It's been interesting. I knew I didn't want to work in retail like forever. It was just something for the time being. And I remember it was my senior year that summer, and the DM, the district manager, he got to know me. He really liked me. He liked how much, I guess, clothes that I moved each week. And they were looking to get a store manager for a store that was opening in Nashville. And so he told my manager, I'm going to ask her if she's interested. I'm like still in high school. And my manager told him no. She told me this like years later, that she told him not to ask me because she felt like it might make me not want to go to college. She was just like, you have so much potential, so much going for you. I didn't want that opportunity to make you decide to stay here for like, a quick buck, a good paying job. She was like, I wanted you to leave and just go see this world. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that she saw the potential in me. And so I actually always wanted to be a publicist. PR was my thing. During that time, there was like this MTV show called, I think PR Girls. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, I remember the
Lizzie
show.
Guzman, yeah.
Oh my God, yes, let me grab. Oh my God, that show.
And
Ooh,
so, they're putting on these parties in the Hamptons and LA, and I loved event planning. But, when you talk about it, a lot of people think, oh, wedding planning, like back then, right? Mm-hmm. But I was like, no, I like the event aspect. I also enjoyed writing. During that time, I was like the newspaper editor. I loved storytelling. And then I loved like community engagement. And I felt like PR was just a very great career that kind of encompassed everything that I loved, right? And so that's what I wanted to pursue, but I didn't really see it. I didn't really know what that looked like besides that show. And then I was friendly with, the communications officer of the school system, right? But her role was so limited and not really what I want to do. So she couldn't really guide me. So I knew I had to go out in the world and like figure out what this would look like for me and if I would even like it. And so I went to Howard because I knew they had a really great journalism program and amazing Black women who are in PR that graduated from there. So I knew that they had a good program. And so I did, Howard was competitive. And I needed that. I didn't know that I needed that. But Howard, when everyone's Black, right? So grew up in a military town. It was pretty diverse, my school, right? But that story where a lot of times we're growing up and we're the only ones in the classroom, the only ones in the room. So that's what happened. Like I was one of the few Black kids in the advanced class and in some of the community programs. And I wanted to go to a school where I could be a part of like this amazing legacy of Black excellence. I wanted to contribute to that excellence, but I also need to see a different type of what we could be, because we're not monolithic, but I needed to see Black people that had similarities to me, just like that ambition and other things. And so I got all of that at Howard. But what that breeds, right, is that you can't just ride or coast on being Black. What makes you different, right? Everyone's the same color. So now the challenge, and everyone's smart, right? So now the challenge is what makes you unique. You're no longer the smart Black girl, smart Black boy. Now it's what is that you have? What makes you special? And I'm so glad that was a place that could foster that and let that shine. But in doing so, we were really competitive about everything from grades to, and I'd never been around that. You know, it wasn't cool to have a 4.0 where I grew up. But here, 4.0, like everyone's trying to strive for that each semester. It's like a badge of honor, right? So I needed that competitiveness. And so I remember I did not know that, you know, I could get an internship freshman year. I knew that I would need to get one for credit, for college credit, junior or senior year, but I didn't know that I should be getting them every year. So freshman year, I had planned to go home for the summer, and everyone else was getting internships. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like a semester behind. So
Like, wait a
after,
minute, why didn't I learn all this stuff?
yeah. And so after that, I got an internship every summer and almost every semester, like everyone else. And so when I graduated, I had about 6 or 7 internships under my belt and felt fully equipped and ready to be entry level at a PR firm. Some of my roles as an intern, it was almost like I was an account coordinator or an AAE, with the level of responsibility if they were smaller places. And so little did I know that when I graduated, I would go on over 100 interviews to try to get a PR job with all the internships that I had. I'm going to just pause and let that sink in. 100 interviews in an 8-month period. That's 100 times I was rejected, made to feel like I wasn't enough. And now that I'm older and wiser, that's 100 times a company passed up on my greatness. And that took time for me to be able to like sit here and be able to say that, to turn that around, to turn something that was very sensitive, a vulnerable moment for me, and turn it into my power. It took time to get there, to really see that that was their loss. Because at that time, at 21 years old, 22 years old, it was like the end of the world to not be able to get an opportunity.
Wow. So after having gone through that, were you like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do PR? Or did you go like, you know what? I'm gonna find my way.
I wanted to find my way. It was later that I kind of pivoted, but I kept pursuing it because I knew I felt good at it. Like I felt like I was good at it. And I kept saying, God has me here. New York was always my dream. An internship got me to New York. I'm here, but I'm close, but I'm so far at the same time. And I just feel like there's just one little step that will get me closer to where I need to be. Like I've made it here. I made it to this point. Like I have to keep going. And so there were little things, a lot of sacrifice. I eventually, like in that 8 months, I said, okay, well, maybe I just need to get something, right? Just get a job and work from there. So I was underemployed, worked at a hospital, and I worked evenings. So that second shift from like 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. But what sucked about that was that's when networking happens, right? The networking events. So I'm all the way in Washington Heights, and all the PR networking events are happening in Midtown or like the financial district or wherever. And I'm like, how am I going to network and meet the people I need to meet if I can't get there? So I remember ColorCom literally launched in New York, and I begged someone at my at the job that I was at to just cover me for my lunch if I was late. I spent probably $60 round trip on a cab to get to Midtown. Got to Midtown. I only have 15 minutes to be in that room so I could get back to Washington Heights. to make it, in time. So I made that 15 minutes count. I walked around that room, got some grub because that was my dinner time. And I made it count. And then I got back in the cab and I came home. I mean, I went back to work. But like those were things that I would do.
Wow.
After the Killer Calm event, I did that a couple of times. If it was something that I felt would really make a difference, I would, have my little $60 saved and I would make that sacrifice. I even took on another internship. And so I would intern I was at Nielsen Entertainment Division. And I would intern from 8 o'clock to around 1 to and then 2 o'clock, I would take the train back down to Washington Heights from the financial district to start my shift. And then that job also required me to work holidays and weekends. So I was tired. I remember when I started that internship, I would literally only have 2 days out of the month off. And it sucked at times because I'm early 20s. I'm in New York. This is the time where I'm supposed to be going to brunch, going to the day parties, seeing my friends, and doing that whole thing. And I didn't get to do that. I barely saw them. It was always just work, work, work. But finally I got the breakthrough in PR. And I was so elated to finally get that break. And I was good at it. I remember being nervous because it had been at that point 2 years after I graduated when I first got my first PR job, full-time job. And I was nervous because it had been so long, but I set goals for myself. And I said, in 6 months, I want to have a big press hit. And I was able to do it in 5 months. And it was just back to back that summer. USA Today. And if you're in PR, USA Today, that circulation, that's if you can get USA Today, you're good. And I was able to get USA Today. And then I got ABC News. And then I got Chicago Tribune for the company that I worked for. But the place was toxic. And there were things about it that made me feel like, is this what I want to do? I've worked so hard to get to this point, and this was horrible. This was a horrible experience. And then I'm underpaid. Everyone wants me to start from the ground up. And I'm in New York, living by myself in my own apartment. I just felt like nothing was enough. So I'm like, I need to pivot. I need to catch up with my peers in terms of the money that I'm making. And I want something different. And one of the things that I realized from my internships up to that point in my career was that I always owned the newsletter. I was always the person who did the storytelling. I was always the person that my managers or bosses would say, can you look at this email before I hit send? Or could you look at this blog post or whatever before we publish? Or can you write it? Ever since I can remember. And I had to sit back and think about, what is it that everyone kind of relied on me for? What am I good at? What did I enjoy? And I kind of became self-taught in creating email newsletters, with the HTML and learning and owning the process and learning how to use all these different email service providers back then. And I started to see this trend that newsletters were going to be a big thing in marketing, but they didn't really have roles yet. They were starting, marketing at that time. You were starting to see people have email marketing coordinators or roles like that. That also was the time where Groupon and all those different services were big. And so they rely on email. So I'm like, what if I can pivot to that? I enjoy it. I enjoy that mix of marketing and, content. I also know that they pay a lot more. I can like really increase my salary if I pivot in that way. And so that's when I decided I want to really lean into marketing and figure out how I can get a opportunity doing that.
Wow. And then you were off to the races.
But I want to get into how I got into editorial because it was in that same time frame. So I'm at this job, it was toxic. I ended up getting let go from the job like 9 months in. I made one little mistake, but I gave that CEO a reason to, put me on the chopping block. And it was bad timing. That was a horrible, horrible month. I'm an only child. And 2 weeks prior to me getting let go, my mother had a mild heart attack. And in the same 24 hours, a childhood friend was murdered. And my mom tried to downplay everything. So she was like, you don't need to come home. And I probably should have just came because she was on my heart. Everybody was heart. My community was on my heart. The childhood friend's mom was on my heart. Everybody was on my heart. But I didn't go. She was like, save your PTO so you can come. So they didn't give much PTO. So you can like come for the holidays. I was like, okay. But I made like one, it was nothing, but I gave them a reason. Did my boss know or the CEO know? No, she didn't, but I don't know. I think my manager knew. And I just felt like nobody gave me grace. I really didn't like that. But it was a blessing in disguise because it was so toxic. I needed to be done with that place. So here I am back at square one, having to do the job search again. And it made me nervous because I had such a hard time prior. And I had a hard time again. Took me about 6 months, I think, to get another job, 6 to 5 months. But in that period, I got this opportunity to work in editorial and publishing. During the time I got let go, I was supposed to meet with a Howard alum that worked at Essence. And I kept pushing it back because I was embarrassed by being, laid off. Embarrassed. And I felt like I don't want to always talk to people when I'm down. I want to be able to talk to people when I have success, right? I want to, and at that time, I kept up with her, like things were good. Whenever I got a big press hit, I'd send an email like, hey, I was able to do this. Or I found out she went to the same church as me. So when I got baptized, I asked her if she was going to be there that day. And, so I kept in touch with her, but I kept pushing that back. And then one day she just emailed me and she said, why are you pushing this back so much? And I told her why. And she said, girl, that happens to everybody. She said, I'm going to call you. So she called me and offered me an opportunity to like be like her assistant temporary till I can get back on my feet. And I never imagined I would work in media, especially for that brand. I grew up with that brand in my household, and I loved magazines. I loved looking through them, but I never in a million years thought I would be doing that. And I always used to hear people talk about, if you build the right relationships, people will create jobs and opportunities for you. And I never believed them. I said, okay, I guess. I don't think something like that can happen to someone that looks like me, but okay. And someone created space for me. Someone created an opportunity for me so I can get on my feet. And I thought I was going to have to interview and all that. She said, no, you got it. She said, she said, the reason why I'm giving this to you is because you kept in touch and you never were emailing me asking for things. You genuinely kept in touch and wanted to have a relationship with me. And I appreciated that. And that meant the world to me.
It's what I say to folks all the time, that the relationships matter. And it's not about always being transactional. It's just building relationships with people where it's just good human kindness and just be like, hey, how are you? Especially during this time of COVID when you don't know what people are going through. And, a nice, kind word, oh, you just came in my thoughts today. It's just I'd say, hey, what's up? Can go so far. Because you never know what kind of day someone's having, and if they get a nice little bit of an uplift, it goes so far. It helps so much, and is so key. So now that you're in editorial, you've had an opportunity to interview some really awesome women, press and company included. What's been the one article where you've been like, never thought I got it. You get it through, and then you did.
Like a challenging article to write?
Yeah.
I would say I had several of those. And what made them challenging is because they were assigned to me. So sometimes I didn't have this connection to what I was writing about. And therefore it made it challenging. I can't really think of a specific situation, but I just remember the ones that were challenging were the ones that were assigned. It's something special when you find a story and you pitch it to the editor because you believe in it. You believe in it. You believe in how the story will engage with the readers. You believe in how it can transform that business owner or whoever's career or that business is, you know it when you see it, and you believe in it. Those are the ones that I love. Those are the easiest to write. And you feel like you're going to tell the story well. But those ones where it's like, I sometimes, my editors will just send me, hey, can you write about this or write about this person? And, I'm just not connected to it. And sometimes I'll interview them and they change my mind, right? And then sometimes it's like, I don't know why I'm interviewing this person, but I need this money. So let's go,
Yeah, I think because when you found those like little diamonds in the rough stories that nobody else has found, and then you get it to actually be on the published page, that's got to be an incredible feeling.
It is. And it's always incredible to hear later. Not everyone keeps up with me. Not everyone checks in, but the few who do, when they tell me, a month later, a year later, sometimes 6 months later, thank you for telling my story. I've been trying for so long to get press. Or when you shared my story, it transformed my business. I actually was thinking about closing down or giving up. And then you saw something in what I was doing. And then you told it. And now I have customers all the time. Or there's someone who had a book deal, but she didn't have like the social media numbers, and the publishers were like nervous and they didn't know if they should give her a book publishing date, right? So I got to write about her for Fast Company. And the minute it was published and it did really well, it went viral, they immediately gave her a book publishing date. Those are the things that I've seen. So there's a lot of people who are popular, like the influencers who always get press. You kind of alluded to it earlier. There's a few women who are always on the scene. A lot of them will go and they'll tell other women, don't spend all your time trying to get press, or press doesn't matter. Meanwhile, they just had a 4-page spread in Inc. magazine. They'll say that. And I'm like, I think it's irresponsible to say that, because you're saying that because it comes to you easily. Everyone's featuring you, but you say it and you don't turn the opportunity down. You don't pass it along to someone else or pay it forward, right? You take it. You take your 4-page spread because you know it matters. That's why you take it. And so, it can help, with the right timing. Press can help, and with the right story, the right angle, and the right timing, because sometimes people are kind of premature with trying to get media attention. Sometimes you want media attention and then you don't have, especially over the summer, right, where there was amplification around Black business owners to support Black-owned products to support. And it's like all this media attention, and a lot of owners didn't have the infrastructure to meet the needs and the demand, right? People have been sold out all year until Christmas time because of the demand. And so that happens sometimes. So, get it when you're ready, and you never know when that moment's going to happen for you, but it happens. And it's an important part, and sometimes it's just fun. It's just, even if you don't take it seriously, to have a feature or a mention it's kind of like cool. It's like, wow, someone thought that I was doing something great. Wow.
So I'll take point of personal privilege here because it's my show, and tell you that you changed the course of my business because you wrote about me for Essence back in 2018. And the day that your article in Essence got published, which, growing up as a little girl, every little Black girl, I think, dreams of being in Essence. Yeah. And so obviously it's the publication that you want to be in. Mm-hmm. And the day that it got published, the day before, I had tripped and fell and screwed up my knee. And so it had been like a series of concaving, terrible things that happened in that past month. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, you know what am I doing? Must be a sign. Nothing is going right. And we're just at this weird ass crossroads. Mm-hmm. And I remember my phone starting to buzz, and I'm like, what's going on? And then seeing it, and then seeing all these people from all walks of my life coming back and commenting and sharing and talking about it. And I'm like, holy, okay. But it also reminded me that I was on the right path, and this sort of shift towards doing more culture and purpose-driven work was actually where I needed to be. And I should be unapologetic about it and not just be like it's an afterthought, but it's actually the center of the universe for me and for my company. And it's resulted in an incredible shift. So thanks, Brittney.
Thank you for sharing that. I know when I wrote it and I shared it, a lot of people in my community, who you always just uncover so many great women. And I know I think I sent a couple of them your way to just introduce because they wanted to get to
Yeah.
know you.
And we all chatted, and it was
Yeah.
wonderful. And I think that's the magic of your gift, where it's like, you know how to find these really amazing diamonds in the rough, or, people who are busy doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And don't have time to pull their head up and sort of toot their own horns. And we forget that in this industry, yeah, press does work. It is a thing that you do need to have, because we can't live in a vacuum. And if we are only telling our friends how awesome we are, that doesn't amplify what we do. We've got to find every aspect and every venue that we can to show off how good we're doing. Because if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for us. And that's the value that you bring. So tell me how you got to Lemons to Lemonade, because prior to COVID, obviously, I was a big fan of coming to your events when they were in New York. How did that come about?
Yes. So Lemons to Lemonade came about pretty much from a combination of everything I just shared. One, I had that difficult job search, and I still carried that with me. It was something that I had to figure out how to let go, because it was preventing me from, being my best self and stepping into what was waiting for me. The other thing about Lemons to Lemonade was I always had, wanting to help people with their careers. I also always wanted to do events. And at that time, I didn't have a role where I could really manifest that. So, when you're applying for jobs, everyone's like, you don't have enough of this experience. And I'm like, well, maybe I just create that for myself as well. So one day I had this opportunity to write for Levo.com. It's no longer, but it was a women's career site, with content to help, women, millennials navigate their careers. And so that editor, I knew her from the past, and she really encouraged me to share my 100 interview story. I'd never really talked about it. So I shared it for the first time, and it went viral. It was republished and for time.com, Fast Company, several different publications, as well as it went viral on LinkedIn. And through the comment section, so many people could relate to the story they shared with me in those comments. I went through this many interviews in this many months, and it was just so many people who had this in common. And I didn't realize that at the time, because when any of us are going through things, we feel alone in it. I have felt alone in it. I had friends in New York. So a lot of them went to Howard with me, but it seemed like they were living their dreams. And I was the one sitting at the table at happy hour, not living the dream. And so they couldn't really relate to me and what I was going through. So I definitely felt alone. But here was me sharing the story and seeing all these people. And I'm like, wow, closed mouths don't get fed. And just imagine if I had just been vocal about this earlier, I could have had community. And so I realized there was no community for people like me. You always hear, like on social media and these blogs, people share the success, the wins, but they never really talk about the journey.
Right.
And I wanted to create that. So it started with a blog, Lemons to Lemonade blog, then the newsletter, and then finally had the courage to just go ahead and do a networking mixer. And because through the article, people just wanted more. They were like, how can I follow you? Do you have more articles? People would send me emails trying to get advice. So there was this community that was created just from that one article. And through the newsletter. And so we were like, well, what does that look like? Community, like through that newsletter and the engagement. People were like, what if we met up? How does this look if we could like have conversations in person? And so that's where the networking mixer came about. And I've been doing the mixers ever since 2016. After I left New York in 2018, I brought it on the road. I was able to curate the same experience in Nashville, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, and San Francisco. And it's been amazing to see the impact. You know, I'm so proud when people leave the networking event with job opportunities. Like the first networking mixer, a few people left with job opportunities. I had the mixer at BuzzFeed, so I think someone got a job at BuzzFeed. And then he's a really dope photographer, but he had just picked up the camera during that time, Mark Clennon. And he got his like first like paid gig from just networking with someone. And now he's like shooting editorials and stuff for Netflix and things like that, you know. And then I think one of my speakers from that first one got a paid speaking gig to speak at the National Urban League conference just from speaking. And he donated his time, he volunteered his time. And so that's what happened the first one. And then people were coming up, when's the next one? Because I didn't plan to like make this a thing, but it became a thing. And I'm so proud of what it's become and how many people have found, you know, resources and even family, like friends through coming, you know. It's just been great to see.
We're so excited to have Soho Works as the sponsor for the 29 Days of Magic campaign. You know, they're designed by Soho House, and their workspaces to help creative thinkers, businesses small and large, connect, collaborate, and grow. And it's where I'm recording all the episodes of 29 Days of Magic. It's a safe, wonderful, and collaborative experience. I'm currently in the Brooklyn location, but they have locations, one else in New York City, in the Meatpacking District, one in LA, 5 in the UK, and they give you that kind of home away from home feeling with all the tools, technology, equipment to help you do your best work. Like I said, it's an amazing location, feels safe. I've been able to meet some really awesome people, which you haven't been able to do a lot because of the fact of COVID. So it's been a wonderful experience being able to record here and help build community. So if you want to find out more information about it, please go to sohoworks.com to get more information and tell them I sent you. And now back to the show.
Awesome. And so with COVID, how have you been able to sort of navigate it so that you can still kind of keep the community going, even though it's been a little bit wacky?
So I kind of had to pause because the pandemic kind of hit me in a bad space. And I always feel like you can't be good to your community, your audience, if you're not good within. You know, how do you pour into others if you can't pour into yourself? And so I was just in a bad place, just financially. I was again looking for a job at that time, early in the pandemic, and stretched for money. Having people, you know, life just got real, and I just couldn't wrap my head around the pandemic. So I needed to pause. I saw a lot of people kind of rush and just create something because they were panicking, and they're like, I'm going to do lives and I'm going to do this. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to just like do this rush pivot. I'm going to just be still. And I know that the right thing to do will come to me. And so I had to learn to really like adapt to virtual. I used to be anti-virtual because there's just something magical about in person, but you have to adapt to the times. I started slowly doing workshops because people just started coming to me about press. You know, a lot of people decided to take that leap during the pandemic to be an entrepreneur or they knew they were already looking for a job and they wanted to just really lean into their personal brand. And so people just started coming to me, hey, can you teach? Like the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center asked me to teach some of their entrepreneurs how to get press. And then from there, I got opportunities to teach other communities. Indeed reached out. No, I reached out to Indeed because I saw all of these graduates coming into this horrible economy. And I knew that the job search was going to be tough. And I knew what that felt like. And so I wanted to be helpful, to share with them my experience and what I learned and how I was able to make it a little bit better. And so I partnered with Indeed to share, job search tricks and tips for, new grads. And so I wanted to just find ways that I could be helpful. And through that, I really had an appreciation for like workshops and virtual. So I started doing that. And then I was inspired by so many, I call them career influencers, but, some of the women that, senior leaders that were taking ownerships of their social currency and decided I can do a masterclass. Let me create a masterclass and do one-on-one because now, there's no conferences. I'm not keynoting anything at this time. So let me just create masterclasses and talk to my community. And I was inspired by that. But one thing, of course, who was missing were the diamonds in the rough, right? The women who keep their heads down, that have incredible stories, incredible things to share, but they don't have that following. They're not always on Instagram and always, on the forefront. And so I wanted to create a masterclass series where we could get those women a chance to share the platform and teach and to share their gems. And it's been a great experience. We started the Making Lemonade masterclass in September. And we've had senior leaders from Netflix, Twitter, Tory Burch / so Keisha is she's at Tory Burch, but she's also an entrepreneur. And, she went on Shark Tank. And so that one was probably the most popular masterclass that we had. We've had ERGs reach out that needed to, do things with their Black employee resource group. Say, hey, I see you have this amazing program. Can we just collaborate and have our employees join you? So Pernod Ricard, their Black employee group, they joined us for that November masterclass with Keisha. And it was great. And they sponsored some drink cocktail making class. And it's just been great. We've got one coming up February 19th with DSMs. And so that's been really great to put together and just collaborate with other people for, virtually. We had giveaways, collaborated with Ashley, who's the founder of Mactub Studio, which is a candle company. And through that, she's been able to, not only are people getting like the free candle through the giveaway, but those who didn't, they just thought that she's great and they just wanted to support. So she's getting business, right? Working with a artist here in Nashville who can kind of, conceptualize, visualize the conversation into artwork. So we can have a different component, in this masterclass. And then, really working with my event producer, Jasmine. She's very savvy with the different, digital platforms that you can use to host these type of digital virtual events. And so having her on to just help facilitate and navigate, the masterclass has been great. Very great experience.
Awesome. What a fantastic pivot. So obviously it's been a long year. What are you doing for self-care?
Oh, I love that you asked. So, self-care for me is just realizing that I can take a step back. And so I say no to things. I make time for me, personal space, and I don't get worked up like I used to. I used to kind of get worked up at work and different things like that. I take my days, my PTO when I need to take my PTO, and I do that for myself. I burn my candle. I listen to music. I consume. I like things to pour into me, so I'll read a book. I'll watch a good TV show. I'll do some writing, just some journaling. And those are the things that bring me joy.
Awesome. I love, love, love it. And then last question for you, Brittney, because you're just so wonderful and chock full of great advice, even in your young years, wise beyond your years. You have a give and or an ask of the audience.
So my ask for the audience is to find ways to support each other. One of you has a friend who either has a community, a brand that they're launching, a product, anything. Find a way to support them, because a lot of times if you think about it, you're not doing as much as you can to help them amplify. It can be something small, like you can buy their product or buy a ticket to their event, or like show up to their free event. Your friend is like having a speaking engagement, buy a ticket and show up. If it's an IG live, mark your calendar and be in that room and participate and show them that you're there, you got their back. It's those small things that mean the world to people. So just show up for your friends. If it's not your jam, sometimes virtual seems to be not people's thing, right? Sitting on Zooms after work. So if that's the case, sponsor, right? You don't want to attend, amplify, get other people to attend. Share the flyer, share it with your community. If it's paid, sponsor a ticket. Tell them, hey, I can't attend, but would love to buy a ticket on your behalf, and you can do like a giveaway. All of those things matter. So if you can find a way to do that, do that. That would be my ask for everyone.
That is a fantastic ask and so true. It's like not everybody needs a gazillion dollars, but sharing what people are doing, what your friends are doing, bigging them up, buy a ticket, even if you can't make it. Like all those are just things that you can do to help people get off the ground. And we remember that. We all have long memories, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We remember who was there in the beginning for us. And so you're so right about that. Brittney, it's such a delight to have you on this show. I loved hearing your story. You've just got such a wonderful talent and gift. And I'm so glad that you're able to share it with the world. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. What you're doing is amazing. I'm really inspired by, what you're doing to just amplify the voices of women that don't always get that opportunity. So I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're definitely someone who pays it forward and you try to put people on. That's like your gift, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mhm.
You just gotta keep one foot in front of the other, lift it as we all climb together.
Yeah.
So I will put all your details in the show notes so folks can reach out to you to learn more about your master classes. Um, and just hit you up and follow you because you usually have great things that you're saying on Twitter as well. I'm dropping some good gems. And also those will all be in our show notes. So thank you so much for joining. And that is our show.